Well, good day, youth, and good day, church. I hope you are all doing well. In my sermon this last Sunday, I shared an interesting story about a Monopoly experiment. A psychologist by the name of Paul Piff began to notice that it was the game of Monopoly specifically that seemed to bring out the worst in other people. Somehow, this game, more than any other, had the ability to change people's character. It turned happy people grouchy. It turned normally kind people into mean people, and innocent people became dishonest. I'm sure most of us have noticed this too when we play Monopoly. There really are no friends in the game of Monopoly, only other players who can be used to keep you safe or to make you rich. Noticing this, Mr. Piff decided to conduct an experiment and see what happened. He got willing players, people from a variety of backgrounds and lifestyles, and he matched them up into two-person games. And out of the two of them, one was chosen at random to be given a special privilege or a special advantage over the other person. They got twice as much money. Every time they rounded the board and passed go, they collected twice as much. And they got to use double the dice in order to go twice as fast around the board, or twice as far as the other person. It certainly wasn't fair, but at the same time, it wasn't supposed to be. The whole point of the experiment was to discover how successful people treated those who weren't successful. And the results were fascinating. In as little as 15 minutes, the psychologist noticed a complete change in behavior for the advantaged player. They started to get really cocky. Their body language and their actions towards others became more hostile. They were more confident. They spoke louder and they were more rude. They asked less and they demanded more. It wasn't, could you please pass me the money? It was, give me my money. And what the experiment proved on a small scale is what is also true on a larger scale. The game is only a metaphor or an example of what happens in real life with us. And that is that when we win, when we succeed, we get less loving to our neighbors and more judgmental. We become less caring and more harsh. When we win, we think of ourselves as better than we really are. I think we all need to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask if this is us. And maybe you know people like this. Maybe you know people at school. For instance, the jocks who make fun of everyone else who isn't either muscular or athletic. Or maybe it's the popular girls who frown and sneer at those who maybe don't wear as much makeup as them or maybe don't meet their beauty standards. Perhaps it's the white kids who pick on the immigrants and those who are having a tough time adjusting to our culture. From someone who's been on the loser end, I can vouch that it wasn't a good feeling to be made fun of, or to be constantly reminded that you don't measure up to other people's standards. But also as someone who has been on the winning end and on the bullying end, it is sometimes hard to notice when you've been the judgmental one. We don't typically like to think of ourselves in this manner. And sometimes it happens without us noticing. And so a question we all need to ask ourselves is, where do I need to be more loving? Because we can only focus on ourselves. To whom do I need to be more accepting? What in my life is holding me back from loving others as God loves them? Romans 12, verse 9 to 10 says, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves. And Philippians 2, verse 3 to 4 says something much like it. It says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility, consider others as better than yourselves. Both verses say somewhat similar things. Honor others above yourself. Consider others as better than yourself. And what Paul is helping us to understand here is that when we are mindful about highlighting the good and the praiseworthy things, the praiseworthy qualities that are in one another, we have less time to focus on their flaws. When we choose to compliment, there's less to criticize. Really, the best defense against an arrogant and judgmental heart is to make a point of pointing out the goodness in others. And this is my challenge for you, church, and for you, youth. Every time you interact with another person throughout your day, take a mental note of something that you admire about them. It could be their smile. It could be their work ethic. Maybe it's their perseverance, their kindness. Maybe it's a skill that they possess, that God has granted them. Whatever it is, choose one thing and make a point of noticing it. But don't just end it there. If you're comfortable, tell them. Tell them what you admire about them. And I know it can be awkward to give a compliment out of nowhere. It seems strange, it seems creepy sometimes. But trust me when I tell you, they won't mind. Imagine if you were given a compliment out of the blue. If you're like me, you'd love it. And so they will be so excited that someone noticed and cared enough to encourage them that they won't see the awkwardness or the weirdness in it. As Luke famously writes in chapter 6, verse 31, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." May we all be mindful of this. And may God bless you today and throughout the week ahead. Church, youth, you are loved.